Capitol Police earlier this week. An officer stopped the Georgia Democrat after she entered a House office building. She's joined by several supporters. This portion is about 10 minutes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Warren Miller. I'm the Chief of Staff of the Office of Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney. The press conference is about to begin. Due to limited time of some of the speakers that we have, we're going to afford an opportunity or limited Q&A. We will have an opportunity for those of you who would like to interview one-on-one for the people that will be available. We will do that to my left after the press conference. There will be speakers that will have to leave. We have some other guests that will be joining us. At this time, I would like to acknowledge the speakers. We have with us the Honorable Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney. We have Attorney Mike Raffoff. We have Attorney James Meyer, Mr. Harold Presley of the NAACP. We have Ms. Zenaida Menendez with the NOW organization, and I will acknowledge the other guests as they join us. At this time, we will yield the microphone to the Honorable Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney.
Thank you very much. Apparently, the case against me may be referred for prosecution. Therefore, I have been advised by my attorneys not to discuss the facts of this case. However, let me be clear. This whole incident was instigated by the inappropriate touching and stopping of me, a female black congresswoman. I deeply regret that this incident occurred, and I am certain that after a full review of the facts, I will be exonerated.
At this time, we will have Attorney Mike Raffoff.
My name is Mike Raffoff. I am an attorney for Congresswoman McKinney. Actually, I don't have anything to add at this time, but I may be making some additional comments before this is over. Thank you.
Next, we will hear from Attorney James Meyer.
My name is James Meyer. I'm from San Antonio, Texas, and I want to make this comment. This is, in fact, two criminal matters. I have been in contact with the Capitol Police. This matter will proceed as a criminal investigation and possible issuance of warrants and so on. But more importantly, it's also a criminal matter involving the United States Constitution and the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, when we talk plainly about equal rights and equal protection of all people. I will say that Congresswoman McKinney, like many thousands of young black men and women, like thousands of others who are abused, harassed, and brutalized by white and other police officers across this country. So therefore, we are going to seek a criminal investigation against the police officer who assaulted this congresswoman. And we further are reviewing the civil liabilities and responsibilities of the Capitol Police, as well as this particular individual. This case has just begun, and we're going to fight, and we're going to use the United States Constitution. Please know that we have young leaders, developing leaders from all around the state of Georgia who represent the NAACP. This will be a fight, and further, this congresswoman will be exonerated, and people across this country will be given an opportunity to fight for their equal rights as guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America. Thank you. If you have questions, Are we going to have a Q&A? I thought you said we were going to.
We got one other.
Okay.
Next, I'd like to call up Ms. Zenaida Menendez of the NOW organization.
Good evening. I'm Zenaida Mendez from the National Organization for Women. Now is very concerned about the incident that happens to Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney. We expect an investigation, and this is one of the few members of Congress that we can count on. A fighter, a woman who bounced back to Congress and is back here fighting for our rights. And we demand an investigation, and she deserves to be respected as a citizen of the United States, not only as a congresswoman, but as a black woman living in the United States. We have her back in Congress, and she's been harassed, and she's come back. And we are here, and we expect an investigation, and we're sure she's going to be clear. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Mr. Harold Presley with the NAACP. Mr. Presley?
Good evening. The mistreatment of Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney at the hands of the U.S. Capitol Police is a tragedy of major proportion and points to the vigor of outright disrespect for women and people of color. This is exactly the kind of humiliation, harassment, and harshness that those people we endeavor to protect and empower contend with on a daily basis. Congresswoman McKinney has consistently championed the causes that we espouse in the NAACP since its inception. I now stand with Cynthia McKinney, as I call her. She's a friend, been a friend. She's a victim. She's a representative. She's a person that we can call on anytime we need an answer, a hand. Racial profiling, false arrest, abuse, and the use of excessive force, all under the color of authority, are illegal and unconstitutional. Those who should know the most are law enforcement. The U.S. Capitol Police are no exception. For Ms. McKinney not to be immediately recognized by the Capitol Police was it in itself an insult. She's recognizable all over the world. So in D.C., our capital, you would expect that almost any police officer would recognize her with all the controversy that's been attached to her name. Amen. One thing I want to add. These children behind me, children like them, been coming up here ever since 1995, the day of the Oklahoma bombing. We came in support of her then. We're here in support of her now. We're here because we love her, we respect her, and we trust her. She hasn't lied to us, not up to this point. So I don't have any problem with what I've been told. We're going to support her. And here's the last thing. The first time we ever got an opportunity to go up into the gallery of the House of Representatives, these children who we brought up here to get exposure to our form of government, we brought them up here for that. They were assailed. Let me explain how they were assailed. Instead of talked to like people, they were talked to by like animals. There were 2 officers up there. The time that we went up there, there's a record of it. It was a staff lead. Okay? The officers in question, they know who they are. And I must say, out of the 2, one was very professional, very helpful. And the other, just like somebody came off of a plantation, he didn't know how to treat people. Told those kids, never been exposed to this up here. 2, at first we didn't understand. Even the grown folks didn't understand. 2 to the line, just hollering at them, talking about, it don't take a rocket scientist. Get in line, get in line, get in line. I mean, first impressions. They're the best, and they're the lasting. We brought them up here to assimilate, to become a part of our way of life.
Thank you very much.
At this time, we will entertain 1 or 2 questions. I would like to preface this. We have 2 distinguished guests that are joining us. At the point they arrive, we will yield and afford them an opportunity to make their comments. This time, we will entertain a couple of questions.
Congresswoman, your attorney said that in a statement that you are a victim of being black while in Congress. Do you believe that this incident was specifically racially profiling? I mean, was this a racial incident?
Well, Ms. McKinney has made her statement, and you have it there. I think that they passed it out, and that is her statement. She's not going to go into the facts, but this is Washington, D.C., and this is Washington, D.C. politics. And yes, that means sex, race, and I call it stripes. She's got the progressive stripe on. And so all these were elements of this incident.
Can you explain exactly what happened?
Well, we don't want to go into the facts now, but it's clear to me that she did nothing wrong. She went past a security checkpoint like all other congressmen do, and the officer did not recognize her. And the excuse apparently is, well, we let them in if they have their identification lapel upon. But that should be a violation of security. You shouldn't be letting somebody in just because they have that lapel on. You should let them in because you know they're a congressperson. And so this officer should have known that she was a congressperson. But he didn't.
I want to address. I do want to address that by saying one thing. I want all of you to understand that Cynthia McKinney is a congresswoman who happens to be black. The fact of the matter is, racial profiling and harassment of black people across this country is epidemic even today.
Yeah, on that point, there were 2 women back in January, one of them being Cindy Sheehan, the other being the wife of Congressman Bill Young, who were taken out of the House gallery, as you all know. Both of them white. It seems to me that perhaps this is keeping in line with what happened back in January. Capitol Police's behavior. How is this different?
Well, because the fact of the matter is, there's a pattern and practice of this happening to Cynthia McKinney. This is not the first time this has happened. It's not the second time it's happened. It has happened over and over the last 11 years. And I won't speak to what happened to the other individuals, but I will speak to the fact that statistics have proved by our own Department of Justice that people of color are racially profiled, and that because they are black, there is a heightened suspicion of them. And that's no difference whether it's in the halls of Congress or whether it's in the streets of Los Angeles, San Antonio, or Dallas. And that is a fact.
Sir, did she strike the officer in defense or otherwise? Did she actually strike him?
I issued a statement. And what I said in that statement is that my client was assaulted. and because she was assaulted and placed in impending fear of her safety, she responded. That's it. And that's the only comment that's going to be made, because there is a pending investigation, and there is a forum in which the specifics and the facts of that matter will be resolved.
Can you tell us where she was inappropriately touched?
I'm sorry.
If I may, let me intersect to let you all know the two named people that we have that will be joining us shortly is Mr. Harry Belafonte and Mr. Danny Glover. So we're standing by. They will be joining us. They have comments, and they're nearby. So at the point they arrive, we'll...
What do you want the officer charged with?
Mike.
I'm sorry, no question?
What do you want the officer charged with?
Well, we think there just ought to be an investigation about the conduct. We don't believe that this is a criminal case in any manner, shape, or form.
Well, the previous statement from Mr. Wire was that Congresswoman McKinney, my client, was assaulted with the exact quote.
Well, I think we can all agree that not every assault deserves to be criminally prosecuted. Again, this is just, then you're talking about the Capitol where you've got interaction between a congresswoman and a security officer. Are we going to make that a criminal action? I mean, we're assuming that, that this officer, let's assume he didn't intentionally do this. He made a mistake. He didn't recognize a congressman. We don't want to make that conduct criminal. But you don't rectify what happened by inappropriately touching somebody and letting the incident just, skyrocket.
What do you mean by inappropriately touching somebody? How did that happen? What happened?
And why? And how does this inappropriate touching go from inappropriate touching, as the statement said, to assault?
What is the inappropriate
Well, the basic definition under the law of inappropriate touching would be an assault. That's what it says in all your basic law books. Pardon? No, we don't want to go into the specific facts. Again, there's an ongoing investigation. Pardon?
How are we supposed to know what you're talking about?
Well, why don't you ask these questions of the Capitol Hill Police? They haven't given us a statement. We don't even know what she's charged with. We don't know what the specific allegations are. We've been told that...
All I want is for there to be a fair investigation, and that's what is occurring right now, period. There have been no criminal charges filed against anybody. The only thing I was referring to is that this conduct by law enforcement officials across this country is nothing new. It happens every day.
Apparently the incident was on a security camera tape. Have you seen that tape?
I have not seen any tape.
They have not allowed us to see the tape. We've been told conflicting stories about how much is on the tape, the video. We haven't seen it. We've asked for it. They haven't allowed us to see it. We don't know how much is on the videotape. Apparently, we've been told stories that initially when she goes by the security checkpoint, that's on tape, but the rest of the incident is not. We've also been led to believe that there's other video, but we have not seen it.
Has Congresswoman McKinney been charged with anything? I know
No, she has not been charged. The process would be to do the investigation, and then after the investigation, they might issue warrants. Then if they issue warrants, then the matter would be referred to the prosecutor, and the prosecutor then would make a decision whether to prosecute the case or not.
If it's not a criminal case, sir, will you file civil charges against the officer?
I mean, at this time, again, we'd like to let them complete their investigation. We'd like to look and see what the results of that are before we make any decisions about lawsuits or any other action that we might take.
Have you identified witnesses who have seen this, who were there at the time of the incident?
I would have to say no. In fact, the Capitol Hill Police will not even give us the name of the officer who was involved. Now, we think we know who it is, but they won't tell us. They refuse to tell us.
Is the representative's concerned about the time she was stopped or attempted to be stopped, or was it something that happened afterward, or the fact that they are possibly pursuing charges?
Well, I think all three of those. Again, this is not the first time this has happened, where they claim they don't recognize her, they stop and harass her for whatever reason because they're saying they're not recognizing her. So She is concerned about that. She's concerned about the way in which she was stopped, and yes, now she's concerned about how this has spiraled, out of control.
Is there a record of how many other, does this happen to other representatives? Have there been complaints filed? Do we know how many?
We have been preparing today some Freedom of Information Act requests, and we're going to ask those very questions. But we don't have an answer today, no.
And those are certainly the kinds of questions that the media can pose, both by talking with them and also filing your own FOIA request. But I think that information is critically important.
Have you obtained a copy of the incident report? Have you obtained a copy of the incident report?
No. We're told there's not one.
Are the Capitol Police required to have an incident report?
We don't know about the procedures with the Capitol Hill Police, but yes, all other police forces, you would be required to file a report. But
Have you gotten other support from other members of the Congressional Black Caucus? And, if so,
I'd like to let Congresswoman McKinney speak to that.
Yes, other members of the Congressional Black Caucus, and quite frankly, other members of Congress, have also expressed a concern about what happened, and also have expressed a concern about the repeated nature of what is happening. And I have had many stories related to me of personal instances where other members of Congress of the Congressional Black Caucus, and quite frankly, I remember that there was an incident with certain members of the Hispanic caucus as well.
Ms. McKinney, your lawyer's statement made a reference to not just whoever coming, but members of Congress coming to this event. Who are they? And where are they?
Well, the only thing we can say about that is that there were some confirmations. There are many members of Congress that support Cynthia McKinney. They may not be here this very minute, but I'm sure you'll hear from them as well, because this issue speaks to a very significant national ill, and there's going to be considerable discussion regarding it.
Can we ask Ms. McKinney, can you elaborate for the families in Georgia and for the viewers, what other ways are you treated as an African-American woman on Capitol Hill that...
I can appreciate your question, but I'm not going to allow her to answer that question because there is a pending investigation. And this pending investigation is going to probably be far-sweeping, and it's not a question that she should answer.
Not even in general terms?
I understand what you're saying, but no.
This is not about the incident, but about...
Well, let me just say that I'm happy to be back representing the good people of Georgia in the 4th Congressional District in Congress, and I expect to be here for a very long time.
Yeah. All right.
Well, yes, Congressman.
Right, let somebody else ask a question.
Why not wear the pin?
I do wear the pin when I remember to wear the pin, but the pin is not the issue. And if security is based on the pin, I've seen many, many members of Congress who don't have their pins on. But in the instances in which I have had discussions, the issue is face recognition. And face recognition is the issue.
Do you ever give the benefit, Representative McKinney, the doubt to a young member of the police force who doesn't know all 535 members of Congress?
Let me respond to that. It is the job of the Capitol Police to protect members of Congress. As a part of that job, they are to know who those members are. And there is absolutely no excuse, none, for that not being the case. Whether he is a brand new police officer or not, there's such a thing as police training. And training, whenever you put a police officer out there on the street, he is supposed to know his job. So to answer your question specifically, sir, there is no excuse.
Can I just add something? The officers should not be there if they don't recognize the Congress people, because that's exactly their job, to recognize the members of Congress and the U.S. Senate so that they can be safe. So if they are not trained and they don't know who they are, they should not be placed there. They should be placed someplace else.
What kind of investigation the Capitol Police need one to, who would conduct that? Are you talking about the internal investigation that they're
Well, they have a criminal unit that is conducting that investigation. I'm sorry? Well, let me make myself clear.
We didn't want a criminal prosecution. is
Right.
what we said.
There is, and has been confirmed, a criminal investigation by the United States Capitol Police Criminal Unit. Period. It's there, and it exists.
So just to clarify again, you do not know of any charges that have been filed thus far?
Well, I want to be a little bit more affirmative than that. No charges have been filed against Cynthia McKinney as of yet.
Who is pursuing this matter? Is it the Capitol Police? Is it the Fraternal Order of Police? Who?
You should ask them. We don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
You should ask them. We don't know.
The only agency that I know that's involved right now is the United States Capitol Police. They are a bona fide law enforcement agency, and that's it.
And again, you should realize that the Capitol Hill Police, the titular head of that is the Sergeant of Arms, and the Sergeant of Arms, of course, answers directly to the Speaker of the House, Hastert.
Mr. Martin, you said you wanted...
Political too, you're saying?
Well, I already said it was political. That was the first thing that came out of my mouth.
Also.
Well, again, as I said, this is politics. This is Washington, and there's three elements here: sex, race, and Miss McKinney's progressiveness.
So the officer himself targeted her because of her politics and her race and sex vote?
Well, we're talking about here not only the incident that happened, but now the subsequent investigation.
I think the investigation is started or driven in such a way because of the politics, sex, and race. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying that as far as I know, standing here to this day, yes, that would be my answer.
So are you suggesting that the speaker is compelled to start the line?
Now, I'm suggesting that you should be asking those questions of them. What role that they're playing in this investigation? Because again, I find it highly unusual that this thing has gotten blown so far out of proportion.
Yeah, go ahead and do that now.
Excuse me, if I can intersect 1 second. Earlier, a question was asked about support of the other congressional members. You may not have it. We'll make available to you, but this is a comment report that was sent to us by Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, who was prepared to be here with us, but was unable to. She's sent this statement. I'll read partial of it, and we will make it available. Accept the resolution sought for dispute between Capitol Police and member of Congress. Washington, D.C., Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton said today that she was concerned about the escalation of dispute regarding U.S. Capitol Police officers who allege he was assaulted by Representative Cynthia McKinney of Georgia, and hoped that the solution satisfactory to both parties could be found. It is inappropriate to intervene in a formal criminal investigation, but in her role as D.C. congressional representative who has worked closely with the Capitol Police, Norton spoke by phone with Sergeant-at-Arms Wilson Livingood and Acting Police Chief Chris McGaffin to seek information on the matter this afternoon. At this time, we would like to yield, and we would like to invite the Congresswoman's invited guests, Mr. Danny Glover and Mr. Harry Belafonte.
Yeah, come on and take over.
Yes.
With these wonderful children from Georgia.
How y'all doing?
Mr. Harry Belafonte
James
and
Myers.
Mr. Danny Glover, but I know y'all know him already.
Cynthia, why don't you come up here and introduce them? There you go. That's Cynthia. I want you to introduce them. Go ahead.
Well, we have renowned actors, both of them entertainers, Danny Glover and Harry Belafonte have joined us, and I will relinquish the microphone to them.
Chairman of the board.
Let me say for myself, and I think in part for Danny, because we've been discussing this, I'm not really here to speak to the merits of the case because I don't know what they are. I wasn't there. I did not see what transpired. So there's no way to speak as to where any injustice lies, if in fact there is injustice. What I am here, however, to do is to, in America and in Washington, D.C., where issues of race have always been at play and have often been central to justice miscarried. We're just here to let the Washington, D.C. community, the authorities of this city, those who from the press corps have any interest in what we're here for. It is just to say that we're here to be sure that this process is handled fairly, that it is not rooted in any familiar racist behavior, that the outcome of this is going to be done on a very fair and a very square basis. And that whether it's Danny and I or a lot of others, that we are very, very much committed to Congresswoman McKinney. She's of us, from us. She's very, very important to our hearts, to our souls, to our country. And we've watched her be abused in the past, and she has overcome and stood strong and been victorious. And we're not going to be absent or indifferent to the fact that she may be abused again. We're just here to let her know that we stand in solidarity and support of her personally.
Thank you. I want to add to Mr. Belafonte's comments that we've been hardened, all of us, by the position that Ms. McKinney, Congresswoman McKinney, has taken on various issues which have placed her in political dangers, and even issues that have placed her in physical danger. And we've come and supported her, even in her quest to retain her elected position as the Congresswoman from Georgia. We've come to support her, and we've come at various times to support her in actions where she alone has stood up when others have been quiet, when others have waited by the wayside. She has stood up for issues that I think were important to this country and important to the world. People in this country and this world realize that she is an international figure. She is one noticeable and known around the world for exactly those courageous positions that she has taken. As Mr. Belafonte has said, we're here to make sure that all the information is there and available, and that we're not here to judge the merits of the case, but here to support our sister. Thank you. Thank you.
We'd like to thank you. This will conclude the press conference. Thank you for coming. Have a good evening.
Mr. Glover? Mr.
Come on, let's go. Can I see what you do? Come on, I'll see what you do. What is life? Come on, can I see?